Muchachos, amigos, and welcome to Record Breakers, a music podcast where a group of friends gather together to share music with each other, an album at a time. I said a podcast. I don't know what accent that was.
Okay, Cole Cabana.
I'm Petey Rave. Here with me is my team, my squad, my triumvirate. We've got David.
Buenos tacos, muchachos. It's my album this episode. Mr. Petey, I have the con.
Mm-hmm. And Drew at the end.
Hey, what's up, folks?
Mm-hmm. We're here to talk about an album, and like he said, David has brought forth the album for this week. David, what have you got in store for us?
Petey, since we restarted the Record Breakers podcast, I've been in kind of a valley in regards to finding music to listen to and enjoy and bring to the podcast. Nothing has really struck me that hard. So I had to step off the mound, take a deep breath, talk to my pitching coach, and just go back to my fastball. I want to give a shout out to loudersound.com's Mike Canoe and his weekly Spotify playlist, Prog's brand new tracks of the week. In the start of the new year, there was a track that caught me by surprise. It was the third track from the album we're describing today, from just this past December 2023, and their first new album in 10 years, the band Moon Safari from Sweden, and their album Himlabacken. Petey, I know you like to bring things from South Korea often. It seems like I've sort of settled into that being my equivalent for the Republic of Sweden.
Mm-hmm. Himlabacken Volume 2, to be exact, I believe.
Volume 1 was 10 years ago. That was their last
album. Drew, what expectations did you have coming into this album?
Well, it was David, and it was Swedish. So I was expecting prog of a metal variety. Not exactly what I got. But
have you brought the Flower Kings on here yet? I don't think I have.
Probably not. No, I would have remembered that.
I've brought Kappa. I've brought Moon Safari. I've not brought the Flower Kings. Okay, I might do the Flower Kings sometime down the line.
But I was expecting something with good musicianship, because David knows himself good musicianship when he hears it. I was expecting something pretty well-rounded and well-produced, and well thought out. And then I saw the track listing, and I saw a 21-minute song, and then I was like, oh, it is prog metal. Again, bury the lead here, but I was a little bit wrong, but we can go from there.
Mm-hmm. I was expecting something, something a prog, like we said. It's kind of like the fastball.
I had to go back to my fastball. The slider wasn't working. The curve wasn't working. I had to go back to the basics.
Yeah, you got to go to the first pitch, the number one pitch, the one down the middle. But I was expecting something like this. It was going to be probably dynamic, very musician focused, very music, very like intricate musically, complex, and maybe concept-y. So I was looking forward to it. I had much anticipation for this album when I finally get to sit down and listen to it. But let's get down to it. David, how would you describe this album musically?
I would describe this album musically as an album that has the progressive rock foundation, but it builds on that. And I think the big mark of distinction with Moon Safari is their use of vocal arrangements and vocal harmonies, something that, in my opinion, is not nearly seen enough in rock and metal. And they've said that one of their big influence is a gentleman by the name of Gene Purling, who influenced guys like Brian Wilson, also big on vocal arrangements and vocal harmony. So that really shines through here. And in my opinion, they do it very well. They are a 6-piece band where every member is either doing lead or backup, and that's great. And I've always believed that a good band can be lifted to being a great band with a great voice. And Moon Safari jumps up several levels because their vocal harmonies and vocal arrangements are so intricate and uplifting and just fantastic to listen to. There's a little bit of that nostalgic 80s vibe with the sprinkles of Yes and that one band that I really like from New York that I always talk about. But also, like Yes, it is very, very sincere and very, very heartfelt. There's no irony in any of this, and there's no sense of being disaffected or cynical. And I absolutely love all of this that is put together. It is prog, it is a little 80s, a little Yes, a little Dream Theater, and it all just sounds really, really good. It's well produced too.
Mm-hmm. Drew, how would you describe this album musically?
Well, yeah, the thing that really hit me, one, the like synthy, like almost 80s vibes are perfect. The guitar work is amazing. The bass work is great. But this style of band, like the more like the synthy proggy stuff, whether it's more prog in your Genesises and your Yeses and things like that, or it's more of like an arena sort of like bombastic thing like Styx. Um, to me, what makes or breaks that specific sound is the drums. The drums need to be super tight, but also go all over the place. And I think that the drums in this record just stand out really, really well. And like David said, vocal harmony, like having like multi-part, like 2 to 4 part vocal harmonies throughout like much of every song. And some of these songs are going 10-20 minutes long, but having those harmonies and having them be as good and as tight as they were and mix so well into everything just makes it feel that much bigger, and that much more like just that much more grandiose, I guess you could say at times. There was parts, and I'll get into this, where I was reminded, like a lot of things that are synth heavy and taking inspiration from the 80s, that like video games, and we'll get into a couple of those spaces, but like there are certain bands that we listen to sometimes that like I will send my father just to see what his initial reaction is. Bad Rabbits was one of those. I had to be like, hey, ignore the album cover, just listen to a couple of these songs. And I sent him the video for Emma Come On, and the first thing he said was, is this the second coming of Yes? And I was like, okay,
Yeah,
fair.
Yeah.
I was like, kind of, yeah. I was like,
No
I
argument.
was looking, I was looking for a response like that. He was like, these guys are really good. I'll have to listen to more. And so,
Mm-hmm.
what do you want, man?
Yeah, like this is very anthemic. This is very like soaring and symphonic. It's very like it 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 what did I write? It that like harkens to the heyday of like prog in many ways, and pulls from a lot of the different sources. It's very they do great use of the harmonies and the great use of like the having 5 vocals, having a whole ass chorus. Like and it works really well. It has a like is a soaring, like crashing wave kind of like feeling, and it crashes over you musically. It has all the like the prog like trappings in many ways, and it does them all really well. It's the musicianship is there, the vocals, like I said, all those pieces kind of like fit together fantastically, and these epic epic like tracks really line up well. But yeah, as we get into the tracks, let's get into some of the key tracks. David, what would be some of the key tracks to zero in on?
PD, I'm going to break protocol. Before we get into my key tracks, I'm going to pass it back to you. I'm interested in your guys' first.
Okay. Drew, what would be some of your key tracks? Oh, you're muted. Sorry.
Sorry, I was yelling at the dog. So, first and foremost, like I always do, first track is one of those tracks that reminded me of something very video game heavy, and that was 198X, which, if it wasn't supposed to give me like allusions to 20XX in Mega Man, the music.
No, it's supposed to be the 80s.
Yeah. 20XD6.
To me, with the sound and the way that like the music was composed, like gave me Mega Man vibes, but also a lot of Mega Man's music was
Heaven Hill in the parentheses on this track title. Heaven Hill is the English translation for Himlabacken.
Yes, I looked that up, and it's supposed to be like both albums, I think, from what I read, were supposed to be sort of like looks at how their formative years affected their adulthood, and stuff like that, which I think is really a cool idea of like taking the nostalgia that's always mined, but then moving it forward and being like, okay, why are we nostalgic for the things we are, and how did it affect our outlook on how we live now? Which I think is a cool way to look at it. But Teen Angel Meets the Apocalypse. I adore the courageousness of a 21-minute song. Always love when like a band is just gonna say, hey, we're gonna go for it, and we're gonna like mix things up on one track. The first like 6 minutes, 7 minutes of this feel like one song, and then and it's just like great sweeping ballad, almost like, but at parts in that first like 6 minutes, I also get like 80s 90s commercial vibes, in a weird way, which is cool. But then that middle bit feels like it's almost tailor-made for like a D&D or Final Fantasy boss battle. And then Blood Moon, just the elation, the happiness. It's a sunny day song. Like, this to me is when I realized, like, oh wait, a lot of this has been in major, hasn't it?
Yep.
Like, I noticed that. I was like, oh shit, it's been a long time.
This is happy as fuck.
Yeah, like, because I deal, like, my like home is punk rock and like emo music and stuff like that. It's been a while since like I've gone through an entire album. It's like, oh, this is all major key. This is all really happy and fun. Like, that's weird. And Blood Moon was the moment I realized it.
If I would go to my key tracks, there's only a couple, but it starts off with what I will call 1980X, Heaven Hill. Heaven Hill being my favorite deleted Sonic the Hedgehog level.
Nice.
1980X starts off like just putting that 80s prog, like 80s rock into your face, and starts off well and kind of like gets you in a particular mood, and kicks things off well. Beyond the Blue, I enjoyed for being like it felt like it was about one right turn away from turning into a sea shanty. uh Kind of like it felt very like oceany and piratey and kind of like or on the, on the ocean blue, which I imagine, the thematically works. It felt like, the voyage, the long voyage across the ocean tides, and when will I see home, things like that. And Yeah, Teen Angel Meets the Apocalypse was this is a 4-part epic prog medley that works really well. Like, like I said, the first part has everything Drew has described. It gets into what you're talking about, and then like part 3, I want to talk about particularly, gets very Beatlesy, like in a way. Part 3, London Bridge is falling down, gets very Beatlesy, very like very British, uh, and I think it really works, and then it kind of goes back to the epic rock with when it goes into part 4, uh, and then it just ends with like a little like piano rendition of like London Bridge is falling down, just the little doom, 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 doom. It's just uh in a very kind of like eerie way. And uh also epilogue at the end. With there's just this like Swedish lullaby, essentially. Like, I thought was absolutely fascinating. It was a nice way to just kind of like say goodbye to the album, because it kind of, wraps up with the previous track, wraps up with oh my god, I forgot I had it written down.
Forever for You.
Forever for You is like a good like ending track. But then, like it says epilogue, kind of just has this like it just
It's the ending credits.
yeah, the little ending credits of the epic, and it's just this very dreamy little sing along thing, which is fantastic. But yeah, David, finally, back to you. What would be some of the key tracks they would zero in on?
As I mentioned, the song that first caught my attention was track 3, Emma, Come On. This song was very, very almost standard, except for I noticed that part of it was in 9/8, which was really funny. And also, track 4, I think this was the song that I noticed that this album was in a major key. A Lifetime to Learn How to Love. It's like an 8-minute power ballad of sorts, but it has this big crescendo of guitars and vocals that is just very uplifting. It invokes the astonishing and octavarium in the best ways possible of being just this big, massive, conclusive crescendo of a song that just ends as well as it starts. It builds, it has a climax, and it has a crescendo, and it's just brilliant. A Lifetime to Learn How to Love. You've already mentioned Teen Angel Meets the Apocalypse, and I feel like that song can be summed up with just one line from the lyrics of this song. Baby, we don't need religion because we've got rock and roll. Like, come
Yeah.
on. Come on. That's just great.
That's
And
perfect.
it's so sincere too. I love it. And last one I will say is the second track, Between the Devil and Me. And that was one of the songs where I feel like the vocals really stood out the most.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, let's bring it back around the horn, talk about some conclusive thoughts. True, what would be your conclusion on this album as a whole?
This album is something that has tons of stuff that, like, I absolutely adore. It feels big. It's major key, which I don't get enough of, and I realize that like it has an 80s feel, but like modern like takes as far as composition and production goes, which is absolutely perfect. It's the reason why I got into like your weird outruns and vapor waves and stuff in the first place. But this is obviously like taking like plucking it out of time, but like adding so much to it. There is so much thought. Um, as I was doing this, I was perusing through like the prog rock wiki, and there was a point made where like, oh, prog rock became a set of tropes. So is it really progressive anymore? Is it really pushing anything forward? And I would argue at times, like that argument and that like sentiment and that like almost nihilism, I guess, like it doesn't matter, like can be true. Um, but I think that bands like this prove that every genre there is something out there that's still pushing that forward and pushing new things into it, and I think that's really great.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yeah.
it's something I'm interested in, but I probably won't get new stuff for another like decade, so who knows.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. This album really showcases a nice like I said, like nice progression of like the prog. It is fun. It is cool. Like it does like a lot of different sounds, and it's hopeful and epic and kind of like soaring, and like it takes you on an adventure in a very very nice way. It is it works really well, like musically it works well, like thematically it's the vocals are just fantastic, and I think like um it's another another fantastic album that you don't have to go back more than 20 years to find. Like there's great music out there that's being released now,
Right now,
right this very second. So
as we are recording this, this album
mhm,
was only released 1 month ago.
exactly. And I'm looking forward to Himlabacken Volume 3 in 2033. So it's going to be a good time. Just set your watch to it.
Looking at the history of this band, large swaths of not doing much is kind of in their wheelhouse. So
Yeah, it works. Um,
when you come out
but
with bangers like this, it makes sense.
yeah, it makes sense. Um, I mean, like they got Blackpink beat, so that's amazing. Uh, David, last but not least, what would be your conclusion as a whole?
When I first heard this album, the word that I kept using was uplifting. Because as we mentioned, it is in a major key. And in this genre, in this style of music, playing in major doesn't happen often. So when it does, you have to appreciate it. And it really works here. This did not feel long. It did not feel challenging to me. It just felt like a fun trip of an album from start to finish. And it made me appreciate songwriting. It made me appreciate composition. It made me appreciate the work that got put into it to make something so uplifting and feel good. And I'm going to be listening to this again in the very near future because this was just an enjoyable album for me from start to finish.
Hmm. Yeah, those are our thoughts on Moon Safari's Himlabacken Volume 2. Uh, you can, of course, find it on our Spotify playlist, but let's get into the main event of the evening, the moment we've all been waiting for, uh, the Haiku Reviews. Let's get down to the nitty gritty. Haiku numero uno. Drew, what is your haiku?
Yes. A tried and true sound with a lot of new method. Major key music.
Mm-hmm. My haiku: 5 voices ring out, 5 voices sing out, and shake the earth beneath them. Soar to Prague Mountain. And then last but not least, David, what is your haiku?
Sincere, refreshing. Prog rock designed to lift you. Feels like a jet stream.
Mm-hmm. I love my bidet, so it's a good feeling. Those are our thoughts on
Gross.
Moon Safari's Himlabacken Volume 2. You can, of course, find it on our Spotify playlist. Play Record Breakers, the home game. Do your due diligence and your due to diligence. Play at home. We got 2 playlists. We got one with the episodes slotted in, one without. You can pick your favorite. On that playlist is going to be the next record that we got going on the list, and it's going to be provided by Drew. Drew, what have you got for us?
Well, it's a shorter record, 7 songs, but I think they're 7 really, really great songs. It's a artist that I didn't really listen to a whole lot. I heard a song or two, but he put out a music video that seemed like a big middle finger to a different artist that,
Oh, no.
deserved a middle finger.
No.
This is I wanted to bring on Tyler Childers with Rustin' in the Rain.
It's not who I thought it was going to be.
Okay. Nice.
Now, the music video for one of the songs on this album was a love story between 2 male coal miners that came out about 2.5 weeks after a certain Jason Aldean music video.
Yes.
That I can't help but think was put out on purpose.
We can all appreciate that. Of course, look forward to that. But that'll be next week, and this is this week. And you can, of course, find us all over the internet. You can check out the episodes on recordbreakers.fun or recordbreakers.gay if you prefer. Rebelli.net. Yes. Rebelli.net for all the other shows. Rebelli TV on YouTube and on Twitch. You can subscribe to our YouTube, see all the VODs, see all the episodes there. Check us out at Rebelli TV on Twitch. Watch us live. Watch the episodes live. Watch us play GM mode live. We also do that. Look out for what we got coming up next in the Through the Tomes universe and all other fun stuff. Maybe even I even just did yesterday, as of this recording, I played Pal World for 4 hours because I couldn't stop. My streams usually last about 2.5 hours. I started, and next thing I knew, it was midnight, and I was like, so check that out, and check out all the other things that we have going on. But yeah, do all the things: like, share, subscribe, everything else, all the calls to action. Until next time, hasta los huevos.
Toodaloo. Live long and prosper.
Bye-bye. Annyeong. Fight.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.